Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, Sixers, to another episode of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is episode 169 on August 26th, 2024. I'm Bill, and I'm joined, as always, by my four knowledgeable co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, before we get started, we do want to remind you that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast. That is especially true tonight because we are reading things that are not yet published. That means that if there is something in the Cosmere you haven't read and you're worried about hearing spoilers, you might want to go read those first, then come back and join the discussion. Tonight, we are doing it. We are digging into the preview chapters that Brandon has begun releasing actually for the past several weeks. And we've got a lot to get through tonight if we're going to catch up, because last week we were chatting with Katie Payne about the Cosmere RPG, so we're already a few weeks behind.
It's not our fault. Brandon keeps releasing things.
It probably is. We're giving him too much positive feedback.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Speaking of guests on our podcast, though, those of you watching the video may have noticed that we have another guest this week. We have CJ, probably better known to many of you as Cosmere Quandaries, here with us this evening. Welcome, CJ.
Hey, glad to be here. Gavilar dies. That's your spoiler.
Wow.
Again.
Rude.
Good. That's my response. Good.
Whose idea was it to bring this guy up? No, just kidding. No, so
Don't blame me. I voted for Kobod.
All right. Well, we'll get back to CJ and give him a better introduction in just a bit. But for those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube, we do want to remind you that it's possible for our listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. We record episodes every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so please join us and take an active part of the discussion. The Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, you can head over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Even pledging $1 or $2 per episode really helps us out as we continue to work to improve the show. Patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners. We've got a great community over there with a lot of awesome discussions. You'll also get early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content, and other good stuff. All right. So, CJ, welcome. It's always good. It's always good to have another Cosmere mega fan with us. So tell us a little bit about what you like about your channel and sort of what your Cosmere presence is.
Yeah, so I mostly focus on trying to draw the connections between different books, looking back at early chapters, looking at the kind of the through lines as we're coming up on book 5 for the Stormlight Archive, but really for all the Cosmere. I called it Cosmere Quandaries because when I'm teaching, I go, hey, do you have questions, comments, thoughts, quandaries, quagmires? And the idea is I just like to think about the weird little connection points and try to see, okay, where can we try to predict Brandon might be going with these things? That you think back to certain first lines of like the Final Empire, where the first sentence, you will bear the future of the world on his arms. And I try to find those moments before they get revealed in the text. So mostly on TikTok, but revealing more longer form content on YouTube, going into some of those theories.
And you nail it every single time.
I've got a lot that's going to be wrong about this book. I can guarantee that. But I hope a lot that's right, because this book's super exciting.
Honestly, the wrong predictions are the more fun ones. So
I love the ones when you fail successfully. Like when I predicted on the day of Taravangian's like most connected day, he's going to do something special. And then it's like, as he's doing it, it's like, I didn't mean like that. Not that.
Your fault.
It's all Jordan's fault.
I accept this burden. It means I have a lot more power than I really have.
Very, very cool.
That's funny.
All right. Well, let's move into announcements. Or actually, before we move into announcements, what's been going on with y'all? Anything exciting happening in your lives?
My children have gone back to school. But that's
I have a job.
good.
I have a job interview tomorrow.
Yay.
No pressure.
So, yeah. So if you're watching this live, say a prayer that it goes well. If you're not watching this live, say a prayer that it went well.
You're banking on those future prayers.
The past prayers haven't been working. It's time to move into the direction of future prayer. I think that's the market that hasn't been tapped yet.
Okay.
I have no response to you right now. Okay. Well, I have family in town, which means that there has been a small dog running around my house, which is absolutely delightful, and a small baby crawling around my house, which is incredibly delightful. So that's been fun. Also, my nephews and nieces, I had a hot wings challenge for them yesterday, and much hilarity ensued because, wow, those were some hot wings.
Checks out.
I made it all the way through last year. This year, I decided even before I started that I was only going to go up to number 7 and bowed out, and I'm glad I did. So, all right. Well, let's move on into announcements. So, Jordan, how is the push towards full monetization going?
We are at 3,400, almost 3,500 hours watched. So, that's a step back because the rolling 365-day calendar is a cruel one. Watch hours, it's the real treadmill. But you at home can help us. Just remember that you do have to have the volume on for it to count, apparently. So we don't know why, but apparently.
Can you have the tab muted, or does it?
That is unclear.
Of course, it's unclear.
Just have it really quiet. Just really quiet. It's fine. Or you can listen to us. That's fine too.
Yeah, but we would prefer the just listening, but we understand 168 episodes is, let's see, a lot.
We also would appreciate sharing, with people who you believe would enjoy the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That would also be ideal.
All right. I don't think we have a Cosmere thing of the week. Check out Cosmere Quandaries. That's our for this week. That is our
nice
Cosmere
recovery
thing of the week.
Yeah.
So
you have you've been doing the last few Sunday nights, right? CJ, that you are doing the lives on TikTok. So
yes, we're calling it Stormlight Sundays. Shane Delart, who I don't have any of her art up, but has just some amazing art pieces of the Cosmere and other fantasy related works. And Joshua from 17th Shard have been there most times. It's a great conversation. He's fun to watch because he's read everything. He's actually he's a beta reader. He's read the whole book. Yeah. And so you can see him going, yes, that is what I thought as of Rhythm of War.
It's like, it'd be hard.
Oh man. Well, awesome. So definitely check out Cosmere Quandaries. Yes, retroactive Cosmere thing of the week. Awesome.
There we go.
Moving to Sanderson news. So Brandon has got Isles of the Ember Dark, which is Secret Project 5, now fully revised. It's work going through the line editing process as of a couple weeks ago, maybe actually possibly 2 weeks ago. Anyway, print copies are probably expected middle of next year, but hopefully the ebooks and audiobooks will actually be sooner than that. Lightfall, which is formerly called Skyward Legacy, is now at 17%. And Brandon's next big project is going to be turning White Sand into a new canonical prose version, which people have been clamoring for a long time because there are some people who just don't do graphic novels. That is currently at 0% in pre-treatment, as Brandon is sort of prepping for that and getting everything set up to get into the actual solid work. The Cosmere RPG Kickstarter is currently going on. It ends Thursday, August 29th at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you listen to this the day it comes out, you got a little bit of time, but not much to get in on that and spend far too much money, just like me. So
I'm going collector level on that as well.
Same here. collector level and all the digital upgrade thing. So, because I am actually considering GMing, which I haven't GM'd in a long time. So I'm excited about that. Brandon will be at FanX. He'll be having signings there. He'll have a spotlight panel in, quote, the big room.
Yes.
And he's probably going to be doing a reading from Stormlight 5 or, in quotes, something else that I'm working on, so that might be White Sand, that might be Isles of the Emberdark. Who knows?
It might be something we haven't heard about at all because it's Brandon freaking Sanderson.
It might be Secret Project 73.
Who knows? Yeah. I got lucky enough that I got a lightning signing for Friday and Saturday. So
very cool.
Nice.
So you're doing the lightning signing. So because he's doing the traditional signings, which have very few tickets, and the lightning signings, which have many but probably are sold out anyway.
I made the mistake of not being logged in to the thing that you can sign up for the free tickets on before it opened, and so I was trying to log in. Like I'd grab the ticket and then try and log in, and by the time I would have done that, it would have booted me like every single time, and it was like, so if you're ever doing that, make sure you're logged in first.
Yep.
Learn from my mistake.
Or don't roll the dice.
Type faster.
Roll the fancy Cosmere dice that are coming with the RPG.
Yes.
Brandon was on Talk Shop Live on August 15th talking about, quote, the most boring book ever, which is his first children's book, and looks to be quite entertaining. Ironically. Let's see. You can check out interviews with Brotherwise and other stuff from Gen Con this year on the Dragonsteel YouTube channel as well. Barnes & Noble is currently having their book haul sale, which is 50% off select hardcovers, which will include some of Brandon's books. That goes through, I think he said, like September 2nd or something like that. So again, not too long, but you've got a little bit of time to do it. Check it out on their website. And then Brandon also did a video with Lynn Buchanan, who is his former student and is a current Dragonsteel employee. She has just published her first book, so she was talking about that. She's got a blog post over there, so definitely check that. It's nice for him to promote his underlings as well. Oh, and I think
they're called students, not underlings. I don't think you understand what the relationship is.
Again, current employee, underlings.
You typically don't pay underlings.
You never know.
Sure you do. Just a pittance. You don't pay them enough.
Oh, I got it. It's a pyramid scheme.
Yes, exactly. Oh, look, I just got a notification from Kickstarter about the Kickstarter. So they've been cool putting those out every single day.
Yeah.
Is it still happening?
Yes, I've loved that.
It's definitely still happening.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They passed like the biggest.
Well, they're on track to pass Frosthaven, right?
Well, no, they passed the biggest tabletop RPG already.
Yes, but Frosthaven is the biggest board game RPG.
Oh, okay.
Board game.
Yeah.
And so it's the biggest gaming one.
Okay.
And he hasn't passed that one yet. That's at like 13 million, I believe.
Oh, this is so much money.
It's doable. It's within reach. It's crazy.
Yes, but that's why we get fancy stuff. Like they make the nicer versions of it. And then we get stretch goals and get fancier stuff.
Those Voidlight dice look amazing.
That I still can't afford.
I want the whole set.
I am
the
very
Voidlight dice.
All right. Well, should we move into our discussion of these chapters that are just so tantalizing?
Oh, right. We were doing that today.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, the prologue. We've talked about this before, but apparently there were a few updates since the last version that Brandon gave us. So Gavilar's doing stuff.
He dies, and I'm glad for it.
And Gavilar's doing a lot of stuff. And that's the big announcement.
Oh, that's what it was, is the Vasher line?
Vasher is his scholar that is helping him figure out the anti-lights and such.
No, but I love Vasher. Yep. Vasher can't do that.
Sure he can. And I think I think I might know why too.
To feed himself?
Because he's a cognitive shadow. Mm-hmm. And the problem is he has to constantly feed on Stormlight in order to live. Now, what if you wanted to not be immortal anymore, but you didn't want to, accidentally off yourself? Maybe he's trying to study shenanigans with this anti-light to find a way to sort of undo his cognitive shadowness.
So I started there. I also started with the other scholars, and then I went to what's the big cognitive shadow Spren type entity that he really is regretting that exists, and it's Nightblood. And I think he's trying to find an anti-investiture solution to Nightblood.
All right, Dayflesh.
Why? He hasn't done anything wrong.
That word is so wrong, Bill. I'm just going to go with wrong. I do not like those combinations of words. No.
You're welcome.
He's helping.
No, I think it. Like, I do think Nightblood's got something to do with it. Like, how do you undo something like that?
Which also makes me wonder what's up with Azure's Blade, because, and then there's the whole conflict between them that we don't know why they're not getting along. And so there's too many questions that I don't know about that, and I'm not. I know I'm not going to guess it either because I'm terrible at predicting.
YK in chat said, "Don't hurt my Robo Puppy Spren." I'm just like, yes, our Eldritch Puppy is. We don't want our Eldritch Puppy to be harmed.
Yeah, we left him.
Oh, that's funny.
But no, but other than that, we've already covered it.
Yeah, so we'll move past that one pretty quick. So part 1 is labeled Day 1. So
can I jump in with a thought real quick?
Jump in with a thought.
So there were Josh of 17th Shard, who was one of the beta readers, pointed out that they added that Gavilar recognizes Yezrian's Honor Blade as Szeth is using it to fight him.
Yeah.
And it's particularly funny because he picks up Yezrian's Honor Blade at the beginning of this prologue and tosses it to the side.
That's right.
And it's just the dramatic irony.
Justice right there.
It's beautiful.
You disrespect
it.
And
in
that same scene.
Him.
Oh yeah. And Brandon made a change that it's very strange. How do y'all feel about the Shallan's mom Shanarok theory?
I'm fully on board. I've been on board for.
They love that theory. I can see it, but I don't like it. But I've come to accept that it's probably the case.
I've been on board since before.
This is one of the weirdest pieces of evidence, for or against it, depending on how you want to look at it. He removed the reference to Shanarok's hair from this prologue. In the original, it said, Shanarok, she was said to have blazing red hair, wasn't she? And now it says, the heralds, it's so strange, I couldn't pick them out of a crowd if I were to see them. And it just is like one of those moments where you're like, why did you do that? In the same prologue where we learned that a herald died. For me, when I read the first one, I went, oh, a herald died. You described one herald. Shanarok is the herald that died. The timeline lines up with Shallan's mom dying. But so I think he took it out because he didn't want that reminder of Shanarok that early in the text.
It felt too strong.
Because he wants to reveal it later.
It's one of those things.
Was the other change.
Did he remove it because he thinks that's too big of a clue? Or did he remove it because he saw how we responded when we read it? And he's just like, okay, I'm leading him down a rabbit hole.
A red herring, as it were.
Oh my goodness, that is
there's
trouble.
The title.
Oh goodness.
But yeah,
that's the only changes that I wanted to talk about, because that one. I mean, I'm in love with the Shanamama theory.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to read them, and then I happened to be reading it here in this dining room, and I went, "That's not what it said." What?
I'd
Something
that,
changed.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I completely forgot about too.
I did remember noticing more the line that Gavilar was like, "Oh, well, I should replace Talon." I'm like, "Oh, you don't even compare, dude." I was like, "Oh, don't even touch Talon."
But I will say that seems like that's a logical thing at that point for him to think that that's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
I always Talon is the one that wasn't good, right? He's the only one who kept his honor blade.
Yeah. And, but it always comes back to I always come back to the line that Preservation said to Kelsier, "What is the weakness of all clever men?" They don't know as much as they think they do.
Chat just said, "Oh no, Ruin has gotten to the prologue because things are being changed."
Oh, no.
It wasn't written in metal, man.
Oh goodness.
Oh dear. That's
Well, I
amazing.
mean, does it count on the
That's fine.
phone? Is it metal that way because it's got metal parts in it?
Once it comes out, because like I mean, it can be
okay.
changed when you're pulling stuff out of a metal mind.
Oh, okay, that's true.
So,
And that's what
like,
computers are, canonically, right?
Yeah.
sort of.
Not metal.
Anyway, did you guys get any? Who do you think the narrator for Knights of Wind and Truth is?
At this point, I don't know. I was with most people thinking at first that it was Kaladin, and then that maybe it was Zeth, even. But
it flip flopped because there's like a later one where it says it's talking about Kaladin, and I'm like, okay, that's not Kaladin talking about himself.
Wait, I figured that it wasn't him.
Kaladin's gotten really
that,
vain,
but yeah,
or really existential.
I've wondered if it's multiple authors. Like that's a possibility to me that like someone like a Yasna is quoting Kaladin or Zeth in that first line. But it just we haven't seen that kind of thing done before in the epigraphs.
Well,
I don't think the closest thing we've had to that is in for Rhythm
Stones.
of War. Well, I was saying Rhythm of War for the two, the undertext and the regular, but
like it was the archive quotes
Yeah.
from the other nights. That was
right.
Those were
But
random.
this one, I don't know that it would be different. Like this seems like a singular author.
The way that it's being written, it sounds like someone who is familiar with these people. I think it's Sigil.
I was
Kevin said
just thinking that, but I hadn't thought of it until you said somebody is like, but yeah, it very well could be Sigil.
Yeah, Sigil, Shallan, Yasna, those are the ones that pop up in my head as plausible just by the way in which they're talking about scholarship and philosophy and things like that.
Yeah, it would make sense just based on how, like, I could totally see him having this look back on events and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want to do we talk about day one instead of part one?
Yes. Because we know that there's 10 days coming.
Before we start, I just want to point out, like, because it says day one, I can't help but not think of Majora's Mask at the start of these things. 9 days remain.
Oh no!
Dawn of the first day.
It reminded me of The Quiet Place, but that's just because I watched it recently, and like because it'll have like day 47, then it's like day 300 and blah blah blah. So that's the only one that came to mind for me, but that doesn't fit quite as well.
Okay. Well, speaking of the epigraphs, let's go. We'll do those at the beginning of each chapter. So for Unfamiliar Ground, which is chapter 1, I should have known I was being watched. All my life, the signs were there. From Knights of Wind and Truth, page 1. So we don't really have much context for this just yet.
Yeah.
But we can, now that we have, should we go through all of the epigraphs first? Just so
that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we can.
Okay.
I would like to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so then I first knew the wind as a child during days before I knew dreams. What need has a child of dreams or aspirations? They live and love the life that is. Moving on to the chapter 3. The wind told me before she vanished that it was the change in Odium's vessel that restored her voice. I wonder, perhaps it is the new storm making people begin to reconsider that the wind is not their enemy. That's one that I think will be interesting to talk about, but we'll move on to 4. I have read that in the ancient days, the wind often spoke to both human and singer. It would then mean that the wind stopped talking not because of Odium, but because of people who began to fear her or to worship the storm instead. As a historian, I find such nuances relevant. As a philosopher, I find them enticing.
This could also be Yasna, couldn't it?
It could. I mean, there's all sorts of people. So
yeah.
we'll get into that once we've gone through all of them, though. Regardless, the events surrounding the cleansing of Shinovar are of specific relevance, and I am doing my best to record what I can discover of the wind's own words regarding them. Though now that the wind and heralds have vanished, I have only 2 sources who can speak of these events. They are my witnesses. However, the wind did not think like a person does. This should not surprise anyone who has familiarity with a Spren, though such things are less common now than they once were. Her memory was keen, but her interpretation and explanation of that memory could be fanciful. Those days, though, I believe that she was deliberate, concerned, and focused. She did not see the future, but somehow knew it anyway. And finally, all agree the first key moment came when Kaladin Stormblessed listened. Though not an edge dancer, he did a fine impression of their oaths.
So the chapter 7 one, like Spren, those such things are less common than now than they once were. That finally clicked more what that was actually saying, and now I'm worried. Not that I wasn't worried before, but I'm definitely worried.
Why are you worried?
Because it means that Spren are not as common, which means
no. People who are familiar with Spren are like people who are not. Wait, hang on. Maybe not.
Did I read that wrong then?
It should not surprise anyone who has familiarity with a Spren. Oh, maybe not.
Those such things are less common now than they once were, so they're less common.
I think
that's true.
That would be true, though, also of present day compared to the Desolations, right? So, like,
that's true.
Like, even now, it would still be true that things are less common now than they once were. So it's possible it's not that bad, but it does seem really bad to me as well.
Before Aharietium.
Yeah. It just clicked that it could be bad.
Oh, it could be very bad.
All these things could be bad.
I mean, it could be bad. It's not like some psychopath became a god recently.
We don't know that he's psychopathic. He's terrifying.
He's got lots of empathy.
I wouldn't trust him with.
He's going to be one by the time the shard's done with him.
He had more empathy than anybody when he ascended.
Fair enough.
Consistency matters. He doesn't have that, or didn't.
Who knows?
It's going to be very strange. It just doesn't feel like the same person wrote the first epigraph as the last 3 or 4. Like, I should have known I was being watched all my life. I mean, unless it's Shallan. I mean, Shallan talks about knowing this Bren as a child and things like that. But
I feel like I feel like
any
this
of the
is saying,
radiance.
Yeah, I feel like this is saying, though, being watched by the wind, because it has this, and then it proceeds to talk about the wind.
So I almost wonder if it's like another Windrunner that we're not even focused on, because it could be like Dobbit, or who knows? It could be.
What do we know? Who is the? What?
I was gonna. Are we okay talking about flashbacks that Brandon has read at conventions?
Oh, we haven't covered
not
those
been
yet.
Released by Tor yet?
Are you talking about the one that he read at Dragonsteel?
I'm thinking about the one that Zeth's flashback, his first one.
Yeah, the one he read at Dragonsteel.
Did he? I thought that was the interlude. Anyway, the first line is all I want to reference.
Dragonsteel 22.
Okay. Oh, I was not there for that.
Yeah.
But the first line is that okay if I just want to?
I mean, it's been available, so if you don't want to hear it, jump forward like 30 seconds.
It is literally Zeth's son Naturo saw magic upon the wind, and so he danced. Is his first line in his first flashback.
That does. Okay, that does put a vote for him. Yeah,
that's a very good possibility. I just had an.
I just love that first line.
Yeah. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh.
Here's one. What if this was written, several years down the line, and Lift is our writer? Just because she mentions that he wasn't an edge dancer. And who would be more familiar with the edge dancers than?
But she says their oaths.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough.
As opposed to our,
that's fair.
Comment from Jafu there. The first one is page 1, and the second chapter is page 3. So there's some missing context.
There is definitely missing context.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, but the other person that just comes to mind, just because it's such a random thing and it's jumping ahead a bit. We learned there's another knight that has sworn the 4th ideal.
Yeah, the random stone ward.
Yeah,
it's like
so. Which I actually kind of like, even if they're not going to show up at all, I actually kind of like, just as a bit of world building, that it's like it's not just these characters that we're staring at that are going through and dealing with stuff.
Well,
I have a feeling,
and it seems like sorry. So the other thing that occurred to me with it being a stone ward being the third one is, from what I remember of the notes about them from the RPG notes, and stuff, is that they are very stalwart and like they kind of run stuff in the background a lot of times. And so like that felt even more fitting to me, that it's someone that we haven't seen, but oh, hey, they're making this big progression right there. And anyway, it felt fitting.
I have a feeling that Brandon has kind of been eager to get to the Forthos for people, but we know that Yasna has had it, but he doesn't want to get into it just yet. And so now now that Kaladin's done it, he's like, okay, we kind of opened the floodgates for others to start getting to this level.
Yeah.
You get a 4th ideal, and you get a 4th ideal. Which knowing how hard it is, it's like you get some emotional trauma, and you get some emotional trauma.
Or healing. I mean, in many ways, it's like you do the trauma to get through to the healing part, right? That's the 4th ideal for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I do love, speaking of emotional trauma, one of the best sentences for a Kaladin chapter ever. Kaladin felt good. That is such a great first sentence for him.
Oh gosh.
I mean, there was a slight little thing where he's like, he wasn't great, but he was good. And I'm like, I will take that.
It was so cathartic.
The whole thing. Yes, I will take that.
Well, but especially it's poignant because that's what's been part of Kaladin's problem for a long time, is that on good days, he doesn't appreciate that it's a good day. He feels like I'm supposed to be like this. And then when he's on a bad day, he feels like he's never going to get out of it. And so he's just pausing and just appreciating this is a good day. And so this is him putting down a boulder.
Yeah.
Would you say the dog and the dragon story helped him to pause in his life?
I like this guy. He's my kind of person. Good call bringing him in.
I was like,
he's encouraging only the best, my best habits.
We break Bill already.
Oh
no.
A lore thing, the armor spren stick around, and it seems to be the same spren all the time.
I like it. It's kind of fun. They're just like wind spren are by nature sprightly and fun and giggly.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they could do more shapes, and I wish they put on little cheerleader outfits and go, rah, rah, go Kaladin. Because it would just be cute.
That's what Lofin's are going to do.
Yes.
Rua's wind spren.
Oh, yeah.
I could totally imagine there being
teach their spren that.
I can totally imagine there being a band called Ruin the Wind Spren.
It's by Earth, Wind, and Fire Rosharan cover band.
It's been a while since we had any of those.
Is anyone scared about the fact that Syl is being described as very human-like?
Okay,
she's going to be going to a herald.
The shippers are probably going crazy and salivating right now.
Oh man, yeah.
The shippers should be very worried. They're going towards Ishar.
And the thing is,
Who
though,
wants to turn spren into humans.
Here's the thing: I am not necessarily one of those who has been a Sillidan shipper. I have been very vocal about my Kaleshwadin ship, but after these chapters, I may be wrong. I'm not saying I'm hoping for it, but there is some like affectionate conversation and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, Brandon, what are you setting us up for?
He's just having a good time.
I don't know who to ship Kaladin with. I keep wondering if it's going to be like some random, like, oh, he met this cute girl at the end of the book, and then 10-year time gap, and oh, they have kids. Just, I don't know. It'd be interesting.
If he survives.
No.
Very hopeful for him.
We're not going with if. When he survives.
So what you're saying?
We're going with if.
So what you're saying is you want him to meet a girl, have her have a baby. Yeah, then he's not safe. He has started the next generation.
Shh! No, it's fine.
It's like you don't read books.
I can have dreams. Okay, don't crush my dreams.
Amy's just
that's what Brandon is for.
Amy just wants to get him to like 1 or 2 days away from retirement.
I know. I just
want to see him happy. That's what I want.
He is happy. He just said so.
I just want him to find a nice girl and settle down.
Thank you, YK. I'm glad somebody agrees with me on this one.
Yeah.
Brandon has been Brandon's
Go ahead.
Brandon's already foreshadowing bad things for Kaladin right
Nope.
now.
La la la.
Wit is at least making us think about it, but Brandon likes to kind of break expectations, particularly with Kaladin. So
Well, I think this is pre-Wit noticing what happened in that scene we've gotten with him and Yasna talking.
Yes.
Yep.
So
Yes.
I think that's the big thing that keeps being whispered. Have we talked about that scene on the
by
episode?
the wind, or
No.
What, we haven't talked about that scene? Okay, so there is a scene that I think keeps being hinted at, but hasn't happened yet canonically in the book. So, but since we haven't talked about it, I won't talk about it more.
Yeah. But no, it's like the scene with him and Wit. First of all, it's a ton
my
of fun.
goodness. I love that
It's
Daladar was waiting for them.
Yeah.
It was the other way around.
I could
Are you
totally
done
picture
with him,
Dalinar
Wit?
just like pacing around the room and finally grumpily saying, "Where is he?"
Well, but the thing I like about the conversation is it's triggered something where he keeps, because he's just been consistent of nagging Kaladin about losing the flute.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me wonders, because we've seen him. I've been thinking a lot about the fact that he lost his memory due to the manipulations of Todium. And I started thinking, well, okay, let's say you were someone who was incredibly long-lived, but learned that the older you get, the more you start sort of thinking yourself crazy because you just have too many memories. And so wouldn't you start storing skills in various places if you can store memory in breaths? And so my thought is what he might be doing is like that flute might have had breaths in it that had specific memories stored in it. And he then gives it to people he feels are responsible and trustworthy people that he feels he can come back to later so that he doesn't have all his memories in one place. Cause that'd be, that's literally, it's putting all your eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
In one head basket.
Yeah.
I think whether he has learned that yet or not, I think in the secret projects we see him finding ways to add layers of security, right? The Elantrian coding magic to make him freeze, like we see in Yumi. I do want. Can I read the description of the flute real quick? Because I don't know if we've gotten this good of a description. He says he unzipped it and found Wit's flute carved from dark wood with some odd knobs partitioning it. What are knobs? Does he mean like holes, or what do y'all think knobs would mean on a flute?
I think there's doors.
So the thing I thought of was just like if you take a look at, I haven't figured out if this is even a side flute or a forward flute, but like the knobs, like there's a few possibilities because like a lot of flutes break into multiple pieces for storage.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put them together, there's sort of little bumps at those joining places
To kind of hold them and hook them and stuff.
And then there's some that like have kind of bulbous areas just in between, kind of as like a sounding chamber, or I don't know though.
I guess it could be the side flute with the actual like pieces that move up and down,
like
keys.
keys.
Keys, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're called keys.
It's interesting.
I played clarinet forever ago. Pretty sure that was keys for them.
I played no musical
Also-
instruments and I have nothing to add, unfortunately.
There are some that are just purely decorative.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it
Also
looks
about
like
balls seeing-
some of them may be either ways that you can like extra holes to cover or spots where you like place your finger to hold it or stuff like that. I'm just kind of flipping through pictures of flutes.
I wouldn't put it past Wit to have, an ornate, mostly decorative flute.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do want to say though, to Jordan, maybe that was your thought. I don't know whose thought it was, but he does say that his flute is different, right? He says this flute doesn't do as much. Let me find it. I'll find it.
Oh, it's in chapter 3 and 4 or whatever. He like the first flute he pulls out, the one that Kaladin has not lost and then found and then lost again or whatever it was. That one's painted with shiny red lacquer. Where is it? Though not the same capacity. Same fingeries, but not the same capacity.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That's where I'm wondering if your thing with like the storing stuff or it's invested somehow.
The other time I remember capacity being brought up is the Stormfather talking to Syl in the interlude in Rhythm of War, where she's like, can't or won't, and he's like, I have the power but not the capacity, I think was what he said.
I thought you were going to bring up what Taravangian's gift was, which was
there's true, yeah. Yeah, he also asked for compassion what was the wording of his again?
He asked for capacity.
Capacity to save Roshar.
But he asked for two things, and then he just didn't get them both at the same time.
Yeah.
I think he specifically asked for capacity just once, but he was given the two things.
Yeah.
Double check that. I can't remember.
One image that comes to mind, like when they say those knobs, is kind of like a snake charmer's flute that has that bulby area.
Oh yeah.
I'm still not quite sure.
On a quick sidetrack, I loved his interactions with his little brother and how Syl played with him.
Oh my gosh.
It was
It was
cute.
adorable.
And it was interesting seeing how like the tower, now that it's fully invested in whatever else, that like he just like floats around all the time and he doesn't have to like, so he's like, oh, I got to make sure I don't like get too used to this because once I leave the tower, I'm not going to have light all the time.
Let's talk about tower light.
Yeah.
Because like tower light is really interesting in the chapters that we've read, because basically it's ever present when you're in the tower and can be breathed in by radiance. But if you go too far outside of it, it dissipates very, very quickly.
And it doesn't thrill you to action. It's stability.
Yes, it's a lot more
calm and soothing. Yeah.
And that sparks some discussion that I saw where people are talking about like, well, what is it like breathing in the other forms of light, void light or war light?
Did we ever get any descriptions from like Venli when she was breathing in void light versus stormlight?
I don't remember her saying that.
Because I'm trying to think of who else would have done it and been a viewpoint character, and I think it's just Venli, pretty much.
Yeah, she's the only other person or the other character at all, I think, who we know of who's breathed in more than one kind of light, at least from their viewpoint.
But Venli has the interesting thing where she can use either, but we don't see a mixing of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because Timber went into her gem heart and subdued
the other one.
Whatever.
Such a cool scene. Love that so much.
Timber was quite happy with itself. I forget what Timber is. It's a sprint.
Timber's herself.
I have a singer in my RPG at home, and I'm very much looking forward to them pursuing like a form of power and a radiant path at the same time.
Oh man,
I think it would just be wild.
That'd be crazy. Poor GM. Keeping track of it all.
Yeah. No, so just tower light is very. I was just going to say tower light is just an interesting thing, and the fact that there's now an active bondsmith with Urithiru, with the sibling, it changes so much about Urithiru.
Yeah, like
the
all
the pressure is regulated, the temperature is regulated,
water just
all the tower's alive.
It's like those sensors that you wave your hand and you get the water or whatever, or you put the water bottle under and you get it's like, yep, that's how you're through now. It's great. It is interesting. We didn't see Navani yet at all.
We haven't, but we've heard her talked about several times.
And she, I wonder how many.
One of my favorite moments.
What's that?
where Shallan's like the bondsmith who?
Wait,
the tower
bondsmith Navani. What's going what? And here we go.
And Drake's like, oh, we're gonna have to fill you in on some stuff.
But first, we don't want to die. Yeah.
Oh man.
We just need to explain. First of all, Die Hard happened. It was really cool.
Have you not heard that comparison from us? That we're like,
Oh, I love it. I love it. It makes me so happy every time.
I had to explain what Die Hard was.
Talking to Kaladin.
Yeah, my
Is Rhythm of War a Christmas book?
There is an adult cartoon episode of Rick and Morty where they're like, "We're doing a Die Hard," and I just I think about this a lot.
Oh. Man.
Well, my favorite part was at so there are people going around in costumes, obviously, at Dragonsteel last year, and someone had a Kaladin costume, but it was like him as John McClane, and like there was a sign on it. It's like what was it? Now I've got it. Oh my goodness, why can't I think what it's called?
I don't know.
A Fabrial. Now I got a Fabrial. Ho ho ho.
Oh no, I didn't see that one. That's nice.
Yeah, I think we have a chapter called Yippee Mother Stormers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold on, I'll find it. I got that thing open.
But yeah,
Yippee Mother Stormers. You're right.
Uh-huh.
No, but just the fact that Rhythm of War ended, and like every other book, it's like there's been time, people then figure stuff out in between. Because I remember at the end of Oathbringer, there was the whole thing of suddenly like Shallan has figured out that not only that Amaram's responsible for her brother's death, but Kaladin's the one that killed him. We're all like, oh, what's going to happen there? And then it's like they got over it off screen because we have bigger fish to fry. But this time, there's no time for people to figure things out, resolve things off screen because it's happening right now.
Yeah,
there's no gap.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you have 10 days. Go. Do you think Kaladin and Shallan and Adolin are going to end up in the same room again by the end of this book?
I hope so, but I have my doubts having read the back description thing. And like even Shallan and Adolin aren't supposed to be. It's so sad.
I know.
Because they're so cute together.
I will talk about the end of these chapters, but they really make it go, I don't. The plan does not seem to be planning the way that they had it originally set up.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Things don't go smooth. Why don't things go smooth?
Do we want to talk about who was talking to Kaladin in these chapters and what's going on with that?
Oh, the wind.
The wind, you mean?
Yeah, that's trippy.
What is that?
That's it's a weather phenomenon.
Oh, that's all. Okay, cool. Awesome.
This is interesting because like it's sort of indicated that the wind is kind of part of the old magic that predates the shattering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like when
Which
we finally get that, right?
Yeah, we finally get a second thing that predates the shattering, because for the longest time, the only thing we've had are the Aethers and whatever's going on Yolen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Which
and then of course, the vessels themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the wind maybe predates even because the Stormfather is now cognitive shadow for Tanavast / connected with honor. Because there's that, like the epigraphs make the distinction between the wind and the storm. Like the wind brings the storm in theory, but like it's interesting to think about how those two are separated.
Right.
But we have really focused on the storm all series long, not the wind.
Yeah.
And Brandon confirmed in a Word of Brandon, I can't remember exactly where it was, that Roshar was deliberately created by Adonalsium, which is why it has kind of that fractal look to the continent. And so if that, if this was an intentionally constructed planet, then, who knows what he had in mind with that. And that means the wind may have been part of that plan, or the wind may have sprung from that plan.
So when I was just going to say, like, seeing the, like, Callan's always talking about, the wind and how it's his, he claims it. And it's like, do we think he knows the name of the wind?
No one knows the name of the wind.
Oh, Kavoth.
It is one of my favorite Brandon Trivia's was we almost had Stones Unhallowed, but he was like, well, that's too close to Doors of Stone, and that's going to come out soon, so can't have a book called Stones Unhallowed.
Feels like a slight dig.
Oh man! Well, he said it like way back when it seemed likely it was gonna. It's like, oh yeah, sure. When do we think the Wind has asked of things of Kaladin? Says, I need your help. I'm so sorry to ask more of you.
I don't think it's
that
saying
line
that
really.
I don't think that's so, in my mind. I didn't see that so much as the Wind is saying, I've already asked so much of you, as you've already done so much.
Okay. I like
the same way Dalinar's been sitting here like, look, I am sorry to put more on top of you, but
yeah,
it's you or nothing.
It's go time.
Yeah, let alone like, here's Wit going, you're gonna have to be the therapist, and he's like, what? He's like, yeah, you don't have a word for that yet.
Therapist?
She's like, therapy, what is this word?
I just realized Kaladin is stealing a title from Breeze. He's Counselor of the Gods now.
You're not wrong. All right, well, now's probably a good time to take a break. In the meantime, Jordan, while we're out, Chad is wondering why you hate them. So would you please answer that question for them?
I don't. I love them.
All right, then we will see y'all in just a few minutes. And we're back. Jordan and the chat have made up. They've forgiven him. They've told him he's a wonderful human being. And we, of course, all agree. Yeah. So let's just talk about what's going on with Shallan, because she's been sitting on top of this tower, this insane tower.
She's drawing, and she's having some chill time, and she's making up with her spren, and she's feeling pretty okay with things.
I'm kind of loving the progress that's being made with both Testament and Maya.
Yes.
It's like, you worry with a lot of authors in a similar situation, they would kind of stick with the holding on to the status quo. We don't want to change things too much. Just because it starts moving into something different than you started with. But Brandon really likes to explore, okay, once we've crossed this threshold, what does that mean? And we're starting to actually get some of that.
Yeah, like, you still haven't heard Testament talk, but she's reacting to Shallan, and Shallan's like, yeah, I don't get the feeling she's mad at me. And even Pattern is like, no, she'd be proud of you. Sorry, I get teary-eyed even thinking about it. It's terrible. Anyway.
And in the situation,
I need to buy you some Kleenex before this book comes out.
Fine. We are fully stocked. We're good.
Okay, good.
Well, and the circumstances between Testament and Maya are very different because, Maya, the oath was broken thousands of years ago at this point. And Adolin's kind of helping reforge, and it's kind of quick. With Maya, or with Testament, though, this is a bond that hasn't even fully been broken.
Yeah, I liked what Pattern said about, some things are clean, but yours, you were young, you didn't really understand what you were doing. It was more like a ripping.
Like it almost seems like with like the bond that Adolin has with Maya, and I'm not saying this is a limit for it, but it's almost like a prosthetic limb that's being reattached. While with Testament, it's a severely damaged wound that just won't heal. And so you can't attach a prosthetic because the actual bond is still there. And so it's just sort of a different manifestation of a similar injury.
Yeah. And even Shallan makes a comment about how like different wound, like people break in different ways. And so she broke Testament differently than Maya got broken.
And talking about progress, Pattern's progress was really cool. He starts off with this: numbers are unfamiliar, Shallan, strangely irrational, in a sequence I do not understand. I mean, we're walking on unfamiliar ground. A better metaphor for you. Yes, unfamiliar ground. I see that like as him better understanding how to communicate with this human, and that just kind of evidencing his progression with the Nile bond as well. It's very interesting.
And then we also see Vatha's Spren mosaic.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing like some interesting cryptics, and it's noticing some actual differences because now we've seen 4, I believe, if you include
5.
design.
No, it'd be
Who's
6.
The 5th?
because there's the 4 of her different squires.
Well,
But
okay,
have we seen them?
well,
Have we seen them interact though?
Yes, a little bit. There's
Around
one that couldn't
Shalon.
talk. There's around Shalon. Yes, so there were the
Okay.
4.
there's
there.
a pattern, and then there's pattern, and then there's pattern.
And there's pattern. No, I remember
There's a
there
pattern
were.
for me.
I remember
think.
in the previous scenes or in the last book or whatever, when she is like trying to draw and they're all like crowding and hovering over her when she's drawing.
Mhm.
And so there's at least 4 of them there.
But
And then
I
you have
mean
Testament and then
distinctly
design.
and named.
They were named.
Okay.
So, but we don't
I
get as
remember
much from
being
them.
named, but I must. Okay.
I remember that random tidbit. So,
But like I'm just saying, like we're seeing actual interactions
Yeah.
between individuals and their spren. We're seeing those relationships
Yeah.
kind of
yeah.
starting to crop up.
Well, it's the important thing, because the thing that we've learned about the honor sprint is like we meet Syl and we think, oh, this is what honor sprint. And they're like, no. This her and Rua are the black sheep of the family. Most of them are like, oh dang it, what was
Notem.
Tef's name?
Oh,
Fendrana.
Fendrana. That's
She's
yeah.
got the longest name ever. Yeah.
Yeah, but like where they tend to be more rigid, upright, very self-controlled.
Stoic. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I mean, even we get that where we start seeing some of the ones that are coming over, and we have Syl being like, she's a bore.
She's
Well,
boring.
and we've met Lucentia. We know Lucentia
has to be a bore.
Like we know her. We've met her. She's the one who was guiding Shalon around in Lasting Integrity. She's the one who spoke up. She's the one who spoke up for her and said, "Hey, you're trying to influence the decision."
Well, and didn't Shalon
being badgered.
I believe wasn't Shalon sitting over there was like, oh, I thought I'd see Lucentia, but I guess not. I guess I didn't make the progress I thought I did, but it's because she's already left.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, and she's with David.
And he hasn't noticed her yet.
So cool.
I love this, and I love that like he hasn't noticed her, but like the others are noticing, and it's just like, oh, this will be interesting. I like the phrasing, like how it will affect his condition, for lack of a better phrase, and it's like he'll get a say.
Yeah.
By the way, the other cryptics, other than pattern and design, were ornament, whose barrels, mosaic, vathas, and motif, which is Ishna's.
And one of them couldn't talk because they just did the numbers for their speech.
Yeah.
And they had to translate for that one. So
Except it wasn't numbers; it's a clicking language.
Which I take
Which
to
I-
mean that it's a pattern, which means makes me think of ones and zeros, which makes me
I think it's a very similar to something like that, or at least at the very minimum, it's gonna be like like a telegraph or something. Yeah, Morse code.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of those things when they said it the first time, I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
I had a thought that I don't like, is like instead of Morse code, it could be Moash. No, not Moash code. No, so, that's
Storm
too stabby
Moash.
of a code. That's too stabby of a code.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really
Shalon
interesting.
finally,
as we're seeing the Spren bonds and the Spren relationships become more common, because in the first book, this is something that's unheard of, and so we're taking leaps and bounds of progress, returning to what's going on. It's not just a matter of digging up what the ancients knew. It's like there's an active cooperative study going on between a bunch of people and a lot of combining of information.
Well, and I liked like Shalon has that moment of like it seems so easy, or no, Shalon, Syl, where it's like it's so easy, and it's like, well, they were following a pattern.
Well, and
They
the
were
person
following a
who's
wonderful, beautiful pattern.
yeah, they're giving like they're like, oh, let's give lots of praise. They shower the praise on her, like, oh, they had a wonderful, smart, such a brave example to follow. Kind of like
I knew I liked
ego.
you.
Yeah,
She doesn't have a rock there anymore to just heap praise upon her, and she's just struggling without it.
Kaladin does. Kaladin has one of Tien's rocks.
he does, and it got packed in his sack.
For
he's
a
not
second,
sure how
I was
it
like,
got
is
there.
that Zeth's Oathstone somehow? But I don't think it is. That's
Yeah, I was like, I didn't think of it as
these
Tien's
days.
Rock, but that's not a bad assumption.
Because there was the horse too.
It's going to be cracked
Yeah,
open, and
Tien's
he's going to
horse.
see the geode inside.
Be like,
And that's where Ba-Auto Mishreb is.
No,
She's in the spiritual realm. Can we talk about that for a minute? We're going to the spiritual realm?
that's gonna
Or
be
at least
mark?
going to be trying
What?
to break something out of it.
whatever it is. It's gonna be trippy.
oh
Gosh.
man, I did not think this was something that Brandon was ever going to touch on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that it was being described by Pattern, because I think it was Pattern who was talking about it, is like, no, you think this is trippy. Wait until you see the other one, because he's like, that's crazy. And I'm almost
Remember how I
wondering,
said you weren't trying to kill me? let me revise that statement,
because I think you
please.
are trying to kill me if you're going there. I'm just imagining that it's going to be a lot of like getting caught in visions of things is how I'm imagining it. I'm sure it'll be even cooler than that, but that's the only way I can think of to how I would convey having future and past and present and just everything all mishmashed together.
No.
But we haven't seen it yet, so I don't know.
Well, and I wonder if we're actually going to go there or if it's going to be a snatch and grab. Because I get the impression the way they got it into the spiritual realm was they sort of chucked it in there. But essentially just a higher level version of what they did to the Thrill, chucking it in an ocean. They just chucked it into the spiritual realm because it's just too alien. They're just like, okay, well, yeah, we can't get it, but they can't get it either.
Yeah, so nobody's gonna get it.
Yeah. YK said Vin and Ellen both moved on to the great beyond. And I think it's important to distinguish the great beyond from the spiritual realm.
Yes.
Like, the spiritual realm is part of what exists, physical, cognitive, spiritual. The great beyond is
Beyond,
is the stuff that Sanderson is that he's like, I'm not going to define that because I don't even want to try and touch on that, which I don't blame him.
I just assumed that the spiritual realm was going to be in a similar thing. It's just like, we'll talk about this, but it's so unknowable.
Yeah.
Like not so much because with the great beyond, he's like, I just don't want to touch on that because I don't want to confirm or destroy any characters. You know, like they have their own mythology and let them have it.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, I just thought it was like, this is just something that's so infinite that
you're not going to go there. Yeah.
I'm
it's
really
beyond
intrigued.
description.
Yeah, I mean, Pattern says the spiritual realm is strange by orders of magnitude. It's a place where the future blends with the present, where the past echoes like the striking of a clock. He doesn't want to bind himself by showing many future events or future people, right? Like he doesn't want to say, oh yeah, this is what a future Yasna is going to look like or whatever. So it seems like it's more likely to be past things, but you could see anything he has set in stone, you could see like some echoing of, some future version or, I mean, gosh, any number of things. It's just.
Well, and that is one of the benefits of first person limited point of view is, anything like if there's something you don't want to show, you just don't have the viewpoint character see it.
Yeah.
Or it goes by so fast that they don't know what it is or, just something.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I mean, there also is the whole, they could perceive it wrong too. You could always do that as well. Kind of how Renarin was seeing visions. But yeah.
Any thoughts on Mishram being the wind unmade? Question mark.
I'm
it
not
is the
sold
right
on that.
gender, but I don't know beyond that. Like it just because they were talking about her making O's or packs or something like that, and I don't know.
Here's
that
the
it
thing:
quite fits.
We know things were unmade. And so if she's quote unquote the wind, I think it's more she's an aspect of the wind or like a piece of it that got torn off.
That doesn't fit for me still. Like just remembering how I don't have direct quotes, but just from what I remember being said about Mishram, it doesn't fit for me, but I still don't know.
Because there hasn't been any indication that Mishram is the binding of Mishram is coming undone.
Mm-hmm.
And with the wind, it's like the wind has changed because it has a voice now after Odium was revesseled.
Yeah. Yes. But that to me almost made it possible. That connected the idea of Mishram with the wind to be
because it is the due to the re-vesseling of Odium.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
that
she got her
might
voice
be
back first. I don't know. It just
like that might be part of the unmaking is the removal of the voice, but I'm not sure.
they're doing little mermaiding it right there, taking away their voice. Except Rushapir and stuff like that have their voices.
And Odium's over there yelling, "Keep singing."
Yeah.
But no,
Shallan finally knows.
There's there's what you were talking about over the break, your Cosmere musical.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Hey.
Shallan finally knows that her drawings see into the spiritual realm or have some kind of future
Fortune
sight
or
/
something. Yeah.
something there.
And that was the interesting
hilarious
bit,
to me.
Yeah, because Kellic is the one who pointed it out. He's like, "Do you do this often?" And she's like, "Do I do what often?"
Sketch.
She's like, I draw people, and he's like, there's more to that than what you're thinking.
Which is interesting because we also know that that's how Hoyd knows where to be is through drawing on fortune.
Yeah, and it was good character growth.
Hoyd draws on fortune. She draws fortune.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying, Amy? I didn't hear.
It wasn't as funny as what Jordan said. But it was more that it was nice to see Shallan's growth, that she didn't immediately be like, no, that can't be right. You can't be giving this praise to me. Like that she still had that hesitation, but she accepted it.
Yeah,
Still.
that's definitely growth.
It's just more growth for her. And I was like, oh, good for you. I'm so proud of you. So.
And then, okay, so let's talk about Shallan's growth. Because the end of this adventure where, they're attacked as they're traveling.
After Gallant is flying, because that is important to me. I like the flying horse.
We'll go back to that. But at the very end, Shallan has a moment at the very end of the last chapter that we currently have, where she manifests Radiant physically, stabs the guy through it with her from behind, and says, "Reality is what I go for it."
Okay, so Abidi the Monarch laughed. "An illusion," he said. "You think I'll be distracted by something unreal?" He continued laughing until the shard blade speared him from behind, spilling orange blood on his fine white outfit. Real blood. From a real wound, he gasped, looking down. "Reality," Shallan hissed, "is what I decide it to be."
Yes.
So sorry. Really happy.
I really wanted her to be, "I reject your reality and substitute my own."
I was so excited to see that because I think that's the direction Lightweavers go as they get closer to the fifth ideal, is that they stop having to acknowledge truth about reality because they've acknowledged enough truth, they're stable enough, and now they can just create reality. Which
they turn into Green Lanterns.
What she did here. Yes. Yeah.
I'm still worried about when Lightweavers start getting laser weapons and all that kind of stuff, because that is light manipulation, and Brandon has said we are probably going that way.
I think my brain is going to break when that happens, because so much. But that was a great moment. I was really getting worried for her. I was like, what is she gonna do? Oh.
Well, and I think the big key there is because that was something that literally just before Kellic was talking to her about, and he was talking about how it's not just sound and light. You're affecting reality, and we talked about this before because we had seen it's like no, she was making hard constructs when she was at the Battle of Thaylen Fields,
yeah,
but she was so just strung out from pouring out literally everything she had to make it all. She wasn't even really sure what was real at that point.
She was in the zone, and so she couldn't grasp everything that was happening in detail.
And so it's one of those things, and it goes back to what you were saying, Amy, about how she stopped rejecting these ideas. Oh, it can't be that, because she's like, no, it could be that.
Could be.
I need to listen to others because they have insight on me that I don't have on myself. 'Cause if there's anything an artist should understand, it's perspective.
Yep. And she even that's like a line from like the beginning where she's talking about drawing lasting integrity and how she's like, I wonder if it's like those artists from way before who were doing weird perspectives talk to some surrealists in here. Mm-hmm.
Well, and she talks about how she like of all the art, like she actually struggles the most with just drawing landscapes because I think she says something about how she doesn't do good with perspective.
Yeah.
And this is part of why she needs others. Because like that was the issue with Formless. Formless was, I'm going to do everything myself. I am a rock, I am an island. I'll feel no pain because I have no connections.
Yeah. Which is not healthy.
No.
But,
not at all.
Yeah, but I was really proud of Shalon, and she saved her husband, which was great. So that was nice.
Well, yeah, she saves him, then doesn't save him, and he's currently still in turmoil, I think.
Well, yeah, I'm sure she'll be able to help him again real soon because she just shanked that guy real good.
I loved how haughty it's like. All the others have gone mad, but I haven't because I have the blood of my enemies to drink. It's like, yeah, you have no issues whatsoever. You're the pillar of sanity, there, buddy.
It's like, yeah.
So, hot take: is that a hemalurgy type thing? Right? Is there actually potentially something to? I am killing radiance to keep myself from deteriorating.
I think they're just nuts.
I think I'm sure somebody could do that later on, but I don't know that that's what they're doing because they've already got the crazy going on from being alive so long and being tortured and braised and all of that.
No,
so
they told us how sane they are. That's always a good sign.
Yeah, it's totally good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh gosh.
Is this going to be our pursuer? Is Abadi going to be following Shalon around, causing problems for the rest of the book?
I keep hoping she just turns and looks at him and goes, "Yeah, you scoot. Shanked you once, I can do it again." Oh man.
And then she's gonna kill him with some really cool application of that she hasn't used as she goes to tell Kaladin, and it's like, I did this, and Kaladin's like, oh. Yeah, sorry, it's not as gruesome as what I did.
Oh man! Like,
to be fair, I was burning dark side points at the time.
Oh yeah. Have you guys seen Loki season 2?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a death that happens towards the ends of that I think is kind of interesting with the cube of light. That I think I could see Shalon doing, but I don't want to say because Bill hasn't watched it. So
well, and many of our listeners probably haven't as well.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have an image. It is there.
We're not a spoiler-free podcast for the Cosmere.
It's been out for a while, but yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
There's some cool
here's a
ideas.
question. Pattern distinctly says earlier in this book, saying the words again will not help. And then in this chapter, it says, say them again. She says, I said them already. Say them again. So that's interesting that we have that fast no, don't worry about it. You don't have to say those words again. Maybe say them again. Maybe,
which words?
Maybe
was
it's
it?
the addition.
Was it Pattern who said that? I thought it was Radiant who said that.
So in this chapter, Radiant is saying, what are the words? Shalon says, I said them already. But in chapter 1, Shalon is talking about Testament, and she says, well, could I just say the words again?
Oh.
And he says, no, I don't think saying the words again would help.
I think
this is probably Pattern we're progressing, but it's just interesting to
I think it's applying to fixing Testament versus furthering her oath with him.
Yeah.
So I think it's also different that way.
It's also interesting because she has 2 Spren, she essentially has 2 sets of oaths. So we don't really know where she fully is. We've seen her oaths with Pattern. We don't really know where she is with Testament, although we know she had a blade.
Well, and even Kellic says, yeah, I don't know what this means. This wouldn't have happened. This wouldn't have happened in the past when Honor was around.
Yeah, so I just had a thought. So we know that her oaths with Testament are ripped. They're torn, kind of. And I'm wondering if by going to the spiritual realm, she can remember and sort her memories enough that she can repair those memories and those oaths with Testament.
Gosh, I mean, you
'Cause
are
that would be
pointing out
really
that,
cool.
that
That
book
just-
one Shalon never could have done this, right? She
Oh,
could
no.
not have seen the past and acknowledged it. She would have just gone,
She shoves
"What?
it
Huh?
down
Who?"
immediately. So anyway, that was just a cool thought that occurred to me. So we'll see if that's my hope there. We'll go with that. Is that her and Testament get fixed with each other there.
There's also a really cool pattern that she is afraid of herself the same way the Radiants and the Deadeye Spren were afraid of their own capacity to destroy. And thus did the Recreants.
Yeah, we still don't know the full story behind that. I think we're going to get some major revelations on that in this book, though.
Yeah, and
there was in the journal entries that they did leading up to for each of the orders that Dan Wells had written, where it's like one of Hoyd's apprentices writing about each of the orders wrote about the Skybreakers, and the Skybreakers were the only ones who didn't do the Recreants. And one of the comments in that was the only thing that could hold the Skybreakers in check were the other orders of the Knights Radiant. And I have ever since then, I've thought it's awfully convenient that they're the only ones who didn't do the Recreants, and the only thing that keep them in check are the other orders. I think Nail had some manipulation going on.
So, wow.
If he talked him into it, yeah. Because was he there when in that prequel or that prologue scene, or was he the one who had he walked away?
Which prologue scene?
He had walked away. It was Kalek and Yezreen.
Yeah, Kalek and Yezreen were the other ones.
Okay, because I was like trying to remember who was there. Because I mean, Nail could keep a straight face from what we know of him.
I think, yeah,
but that makes me wonder if he just did a little bit there to kind of plan for things.
Well, especially because at that point he'd be just going just as mad as Kellic was, and we see in that flashback that Kellic he's already starting to fray.
Yeah, which
he's also the only herald who joined who actually joined his order.
Yeah,
I feel like there was somebody else who did, but now I don't know.
No, it's specified.
He's the only one who actually joined.
Did somebody else join a different order?
No, but there's a lot of speculation that one will.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I could have sworn there was something.
People think Ash will go for Dustbringer. Give us a Dustbringer in the Battle of Thalen Field.
And that's based largely on just we know who all of the viewpoint characters are. There isn't one for Dustbringers, and Ash is one. And we've already got a Lightweaver, so.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
This might be nothing. Anytime Brandon writes the sentence almost like I think to myself, maybe it is, and the person just doesn't realize it is. This heavenly one had a pattern almost like a white glyph covering most of his face. It's just, that's such a weird sentence to me. And I'm wondering if we're going to see other heavenly ones maybe that also have a glyph. Because this is also weird. They talk about these heavenly ones being different. They're almost certainly not being led by Leshwi anymore, because Leshwi's
hyper aggressive.
Abandoned Odium. Yeah. So I'm wondering if that glyph is like maybe connected to L or some okay, these are the ones that are maybe the glyph is, hey, I'm a fused that's with Todium, not having abandoned Todium, right? Like it's a signifier or something.
It kind of makes me think of like the handprints on the big orc guys in Lord of the Rings.
Yes, the Uruk-hai. Yeah.
Uruk-hai, yeah. There we go.
Yeah,
the hand of Saruman.
You were inadvertently really close. The orc guys, the Orc-hai. What if that's what it was? Like they were just saying we're orc guys, and the elves just misheard him the entire time.
Oh, okay, the Orc-hai. No,
let's not get into language with Tolkien because we could be here for hours.
No.
Oh, was he into language or something?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
No, but
what about
the other thing is?
Oh,
well, I was just going to say the other thing is that this is one of the few times where we actually get a named fuse with a title. Yeah. You know, we haven't had many of those.
Because we've had the Pursuer, we've had Leshwi, we've had...
what was Leshwi's title?
Raboniel.
Raboniel, that's right. I forgot Raboniel's name. And I feel like there might have been somebody else, but yeah, there's only been like a handful that we've gotten named.
Mm-hmm. But this one we have Abadai the Monarch. So it's just one of those. He drops a named
a moniker
fused on us, and then immediately kills him. It's just like, okay, something's going to happen here.
I feel like he's probably going to come back.
He's got to come back.
Yeah.
Or counterpoint, he doesn't.
You make a good point.
Oh, because that would be cool. If by
it would be like I don't know. I just think of something where it's like, you will remember my name. I am, and then Indy just pulls out the gun and just shoots it. This I don't know. I kind of just like the idea of Shallan just being like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah, I mean, unless they send them back the way they sent Elle back at the end of Rhythm of War, they're theoretically needing to wait for an Everstorm in theory. So it's interesting. They could, but Elle Pursuer seemed surprised when he popped back in. They call it the old way or the traditional way or something like that.
True, and we only have 10 days, but who knows if there's going to be an Everstorm or
we don't know when
regular storm
how
in
often
those
the storm
10 days.
is coming, yeah.
I guess we won't get a regular storm in the 10 days because we just had one when Kaladin.
Oh, it's about to happen on the way to Azamir, right? Because the
they were.
Oh, right.
They're going to follow.
So there is an Everstorm coming.
I thought that was a high storm.
I think that was a
high storm coming.
It's a high storm.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Lots of stuff to.
Lots of storms. Lots of things to keep track of.
And maybe another one.
Shallan became Drehi for a half minute. Do we want to talk about Shallan being Drehi and being able to suck in his lashing?
Yeah, that was different.
I was like, is that a typo? No, I know it's probably not a typo, but what?
Well, what I think it is, I think this is sort of, I think Yesna inadvertently gave her the most important lesson she needed. The whole power is mostly a perception, even to oneself. And she's learning the power of lies, of convincing yourself that I can do this. Fake it till I make it. I can do this.
Well, it's sort of like, with in Mistborn, the metal mines are keyed to an identity. With Shallan, identity is a fluid concept.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think potentially all Lightweavers could get to the point, right? If they're progressing high enough to where they could maybe unkey their identity and unkey other people's, or not even unkey their identity, but like key your identity to someone else's, which might require you to know the person.
But I'd say with Shallan, like she's a special case even among Lightweavers.
Because she's got two
identity
Spren.
And becoming a person. Well, she's got two Spren, and she actually has, multiple aspects.
And we know that and we know it's magically something going on because Sanderson has said that it's not just normal DAD, it's magic.
And her mom's a herald.
Yeah. I like CJ, I like your mentioning about maybe if they know them well, because that brings the Emperor's soul to mind.
It's
true. It's like, can we actually recreate someone else's identity through knowledge of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I read one of my favorite sentences that's sort of connected to this?
Okay.
Shallan didn't have many sketches of Gallant, so the horse was off, but her doppelganger of Adolin was flawless.
Horses are hard to draw, not gonna lie. Really hard.
So speaking of horses, let's talk about flying horses.
Gallant, I loved it so much that he's just like, yeah, I should fly. Obviously, I should fly. I'm just running in the sky. It's great. Let's do this.
Again, I just hear, now I'm a flying talking donkey. It just
made me happy. And Adolin's first thing, like, how many is it going to take to carry my horse? Like, that is his concern. It's like, we're not leaving the horse. No.
They brought the horse. They literally brought the Stormin horse.
And again, Gallant, he starts flying and he's not freaking out like a lot of horses would. He's just like, yeah, this is where I belong.
This is fine.
I deserve this.
I'm clearly a majestic creature.
Why haven't I flown yet?
Yeah, that struck me. The fact that it went, okay, first she'd expected him to panic, but he didn't. He seemed calm. He looked upward almost aspirationally. And then when they brought him back down, he looked frustrated. Well, he couldn't be frustrated. Horses don't get frustrated. I was like, yes, Sanderson, we understand. Rishadium are able to fly in some way. Like they're supposed to be able to. We get it. Just hit us over the head.
See, I don't think that's what he's really hinting at. I think it's more hinting at the idea that these are different creatures. They're not just horses. They're much smarter. They understand intention. They're
very particular about their riders and they're much smarter than a lot of things.
But it was interesting because Gallant was moving, like it seemed he at least had some control of where he was moving, just based on the way he was moving and stuff. It's like, it almost seems like he's like, because most of them, they lash and they just fall for a certain direction. And he kind of just had, like, I don't know what it was. There was something about the way Brandon described it that I'm like, that's not how lashing works normally. So,
yeah,
Gallant's just awesome.
He also leaves an unusual after image, which is like Zeth.
Very like Zeth.
They did. I remember in Rhythm of War, they mentioned that like when he came into Shadesmar, it was noticed and it was like, oh, so it makes me think that they bond some kind of spren. They must.
Well, yeah, because we know it's music spren.
Is it music spren? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but which is a very interesting concept.
Well, why not?
Of like why
creatures?
Well, but why music spren to horse? Some people have theorized it's the galloping of hooves.
The pattern, the rhythm.
Yeah, there's a rhythm to it. It's just because we've seen music. It's one because, like for example, the gravitation or the lux spren that we see the great shells bond. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They're heavy things; they come towards it. But
the great shells and cheer and the Larkins.
Yeah. These are big things, and so it makes sense they would attract, what are essentially gravitation spren. But music spren's interesting because that's not a natural phenomenon, but it is kind of is on this world.
Yeah, because rhythms are a thing. So
I just thought it was an odd one.
I think Gallant's after image is like rainbow hued, like a unicorn. So
robot unicorn rainbow attack. Gorgeous. I knew it.
Yep, exactly. The other thing that I did find interesting is that Shallan refers to Gallant as Adolin's horse.
Which, I mean, it was kind of moving that way before because he lost Sureblood, but Dalinar's too busy.
But still, the fact that they are referring to him as such, like that's telling.
Yeah, I also think by perspective, this is the horse that she knows him for, because when he was with Sureblood, they were still just in courtship, and she spent a lot of that time doing Ghostblood stuff, being stuck in a chasm, trying to find Urithiru. And by the time she's more seriously being around Adolin, he's now hanging around Gallant instead of Sureblood.
Well, she would still see Sureblood as his, though, because she also was there when he was mourning Sureblood.
Yeah, and I think she probably would have seen through the trip there and being in lasting integrity and everything else, how the bond has grown between them. And I'm sure with her chats, when she was talking about things with Adolin was probably talking about Gallant. So I'm sure she would have gotten that from Adolin.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, the fact that her thought of him is not, Dalinar's horse that Adolin is borrowing. She sees him now as Adolin's horse. I think that's telling. I think that's a really interesting detail that Brandon included.
Well, and that's an interesting thought when you pair that with her thought on Vatha, where she sort of chides herself to get the former deserter. No, I need to stop thinking of him as a former deserter. I need to recognize where he is, not where he was.
And so she's seeing who Gallant is attached.
And that's That's also interesting for us because Gaz is among her retinue, and Gaz is somebody that we knew before and didn't like.
Yeah,
he wasn't polite.
No, not so much. No,
polite.
There were so many little things that I loved. Like I loved just Wit being laying on the couch and covering the whole thing. And then he's reading the romance novel. Did you guys notice that?
Yep.
Yes.
He's reading the romance novel, and I was like,
He was Ardent Greg the entire time.
Isn't perhaps Ardent Greg was the wit we met along the way? Sorry, CJ. We couldn't remember the name of the Ardent that was talking about the romance novel,
so we Ardent Greg.
He's Ardent Greg.
You could have said that for the next 30 minutes, and I've been like, yeah, probably sounds about right.
But okay, there is one thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about Scar training the troops.
Was so funny. I loved that.
I love that.
I just love he's walking along, just chucking spears out the window, talking casually with Kaladin.
And there's a comment of he made sure Kaladin was sure he told the people below to expect the spears to be focused. So just like, yeah, I'm going to do some training, so just don't be on the balconies for a little while.
But the thing is, they know what's going on, and so they're just sitting. Every time one pops out, they're just like, got another one.
It's like, dang it, they got over 20. You're going to win the bet now.
Can I read a quick sentence that I love from that section? So Scar grinned. The man enjoyed all this a little too much. Kaladin had led, but Scar, he'd been born to teach. It took talent to be a good soldier, but a different kind entirely to make good soldiers. While Kaladin is looking at the soldier that he made into a good soldier through his leadership. Like, what do you mean that you're not a good enough leader? Like, it's just so silly. It's like, Kaladin, you're looking at the person.
So what you're proposing here is that Kaladin sometimes doesn't recognize the fruit of his own labor. Bold take, man. Bold take.
Well,
even while he's happy and he's staring right at it, he's like, man, you're such a good leader, Scar. I wish I could be like you.
I could also see it that Kaladin would also have looked at it from the perspective of he helped forge his crew, the Bridge 4, with all the adversities going on around them versus these soldiers are not having that same level of adversity. So they have to be taught a different way. And Kaladin's like, I don't know how I do that versus it was do or die with Bridge 4. Yeah. So, but yeah, I definitely agree that he's kind of like, man, everybody's so good at it and just blind to himself.
Which actually is kind of amusing because if you've read The Wheel of Time, there's the three main boys, the Ta'veren. Yeah, yes. But like they always talk about how the other two are so good with women, and they just don't understand. And all of them are saying the same things about each other in their own minds.
I've only read partway through the second one, and I'm like, I remember reading that segment, and I'm like, none of you are good with women. You're all terrible. You're all dumb teenage boys.
No, that is
so dumb.
You found the bit. You have found the bit. 100%.
I was like, really? He's a ladies' man? No.
Oh man. I do love that they make Kaladin go and say goodbye to people.
Yeah, they're like, you better go. You go do the conversation.
I love it's like, I'll let you do the stupid thing and not call you out for it, but we both know you're doing a stupid thing,
you're
right?
Doing the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to the Will Kaladin and Shallan and Adolin end up in the same room together. He thinks, Radiant Shallan will be back from Shademar later today. When will they arrive? They should reach Azamir about an hour before midnight. There would be time then if Kaladin was in Azamir waiting for the high storm. Except they're not going to be in Azamir because they're down in the beads because they only had enough stormlight to get there, right? Like they said, we only have enough to get this group there. Now we've used a bunch of stormlight fighting people.
Yep.
So we're gonna have to.
Some of it's
go
been sucked up by the spears. She spent a lot of it. Yeah, it's
not bueno.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a problem.
Also,
I'm learning.
It was interesting. Like it makes sense, and I like that. The others weren't really fond of it, but like we dropped the Sprin into the river because they can breathe. And like, I love the reactions. Just like, I'm not happy about this. It makes sense. All right, fine. But dude,
but I'm not happy about it.
That would have been so great to see Pattern like falling down. I do not like this. Absolutely. Oh, that is amazing.
Oh, man.
I mean, Pattern, he'd just be laughing.
Shallan.
And I did think it was a really sweet moment when they were, before they got attacked, how they were flying out and Shallan and stuff were kind of seeing that there's all of these lost blades that are just kind of walking into the bead.
Let's talk about the lost blades. Yes.
Because I was like,
fascinating.
hold up, they're
reveal.
getting forgotten and they disappear. Like,
Mhm.
poof. Because they're a cognitive thing. So if no one is thinking about them, they will.
I didn't
cease
think
to
of it.
exist.
I was thinking it was that the blades disappear, but the lost, like the Spren, are like they fade from the
physical
realm. And so they're
Mhm.
just sort of
Lost in the beads.
a
somewhere.
next level of Deadeye.
It
How
kinda
would
makes-
you'd have to find them in Shadesmar at that point. Like, you can't find. I mean, that there was that beautiful moment where, and I don't know whether Maya believes it's possible or not by the way that she responded, but Shallan's like, "We'll find," or Adolin, who says it? Adolin or
It's
Shallan
one of
says,
them.
"We'll find them." I highlighted it. Dang it! But yeah, we'll find them, all of them. And Maya says that would be nice. And it's like,
Yeah.
do you mean you don't think it's possible, or are you just like hesitating to say because of the Bond stuff being rough? I wasn't sure.
And
but
I mean, they mentioned that maybe there's a Fabrial they could do or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Adolin, it says Adolin frowned, perhaps considering the logistics of that. I wonder if Aunt Navani
Mhm.
could design a Fabrial to help locate them. We could at least try to make them comfortable on this side. Maya smiled at that. I think that would be wonderful.
And I mean, especially since Navani is bonded to the sibling now, there's going to be a whole lot more that she's going to be able to do, and hopefully figure out how to make Fabrials that don't make the sibling angry, because sibling's not going to go for it.
Well, and
Yeah.
with these lost blades, maybe there's something different about them that would work and all that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe through a Fabrial, she can actually help kind of reconstitute them, or who knows.
Well,
Or at
and then
least
there's
get them
something
fine.
there's something to be said,
think if
because
we
like
can-
the Stormfather, he didn't like, he talks about how he didn't like, certain things that men did, but then later on he talks to Dalinar about how, he hated the Radiance for the oaths they broke, but now that he's starting to gain perspective, he's now starting to understand what was going on. And the sibling right now is in a very similar state to the Stormfather, and now has bonded to Navani and might start gaining perspective on why she does things.
It may just be like, okay,
we
you can make the Fabrial, but you have to let them go after a year, or and just
Yeah, or
Something like
persuade. Make back to Yumi, right? Make deals with the little mini gods to have them enjoy what they're doing. In this chapter, we also have a World Hopper sighting with Felt.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Felt gets to lead the walking trip back, so he doesn't get attacked.
Which maybe is going to intersect. Like, they'll be like sitting on this little fortress, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing over there?"
You need some help, guys?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Where are you guys? Weren't you supposed to be gone? Yes, thank you. We didn't know.
Yeah. I did like, we haven't talked about Zeth like at all, really. And I did like
gosh.
seeing Nightblood in Kaladin's head. That was not which I knew was coming, because I knew they were going to end up being on teaming up, but that was just cute that he's like, are we going to bring snacks? Even though I don't think I can eat snacks, but I know those are important. And Kaladin's
Lift
like,
told me
I'll
they're
bring
important.
snacks.
Just
But
lifts
might be-
subtle corruption of Nightblood.
I love it.
That
Lift and
might
Nightblood
be
is the Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah. Oh, it's not. It's. I was gonna say that'd be a great trivia, like quote. I'll bring snacks from the Cosmere, and you have to remember who, because Kaladin is probably the last person I ever would think to
You
attribute
would think
that
Lift,
quote
you'd
to.
think Navani, you'd think Dal, you'd think any of the other people, but no, it's Kaladin. I'll bring
Adolin.
snacks.
Yeah, I'll bring snacks.
That just made me
And he's
happy.
I just love that. I don't know. Nightblood's just like, there's a party going on, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
This is great. Where are we going? And that's like,
I just
paying
realized-
attention? And he's like, yeah, but I don't know where we're going. It's great.
I just realized, think about what Nightblood eats. That's suddenly a much darker conversation.
Yes, 100%.
Are we bringing snacks? Kaladin looks over at Syl a little warily. I mean,
Well, if we find some fused along the way, maybe you can have a snack from them.
Some
mean,
unmade
they don't- I
over
mean,
there,
that-
perhaps.
it's like, what if that's instead? It's like, are we bringing snacks? Is that's like, I don't know if we're running into a thunderclast. We'll see if we can find one on the way.
I mean, the last snack he had was odiums.
Yeah. Yeah, frankly, he should not be asking about snacks. He's like, you ate a god on the way here, okay? No more snacks for you.
We have snacks at home.
Yep.
Oh gosh. We should probably start wrapping up.
Oh, man, but this was fun.
If there's things that y'all want to get to, we can do that, and then
Just trying to think. There's just a lot.
There is so much.
There's so much. The other thing I just want to just do real quick aside. Kaladin is talked into, we want you in the line of succession for King of Urithiru.
That is the point I was wanting to talk about and forgot. Yes.
Oh yes.
And Kaladin's over here. I'm sorry. What?
Who? And then he's like, "Oh shoot, my eyes are blue." And lots of things.
A lot of my old excuses don't work anymore.
Yeah.
Freaking light eyes. Wait.
I'm one of them.
It does seem like this is the logical next step in his character arc to say, all right, I've accepted that I couldn't save the people from all the bad leaders and all the bad decision making they've made. Now I have to be the one who starts making those decisions for other people. I have thought for a while that his fifth ideal will have something to do with needing to accept that you will have to make the kinds of decisions that Amaram and Sadius and Rashon and Taravangian made, where we're sacrificing other and Gavilar, but to lead, you have to make those kinds of decisions. But if you were a noble Radiant Windrunner making those decisions, you're not going to be sacrificing a group of soldiers to get a shard blade. You're going to be making good decisions, but I don't think he trusts himself or anyone to make those kinds of decisions. Yeah.
Well, because that's the problem. Everyone justifies their decisions as being necessary for the greater good. And that's the terrifying thing there is once you start having to make those decisions. I mean, look, if you've ever, one of my favorite things to see is President of the United States signatures as the time goes on in their presidency. If you've ever studied it, you see their signatures get shorter and less ornate. And it's just like, obviously part of it is the more stuff you sign, you're just going to start. Look at how simple Brandon's is. But at the same time, it's still more flowery than you see these things. It's because there's just a weight to it. And at a certain point, you just sort of, you get worn down, and it starts being easier to just sort of sit there and be like, okay, well, I guess I can do this because I have to, because I mean, what's the choice? We're about to get annihilated. And it's like, you keep making choices because you're about to be annihilated. It becomes easier to justify the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's the hard part of leadership, is everyone wants to go into it thinking they're going to be the good guy. And then, then you get to the things that Taravangian talks about, where it's like your job is to make the horrible decisions so other people can sleep at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's the thing that's scary about Taravangian, is he has a really good point.
I know a lot of people hate Lirin. I love Lirin, but that's another story. He has taught Kaladin all of the other ideals, and I think secretly he's taught the fifth one to him as well. In the first interlude, Stories of Surgeons, they have a hand where one of the fingers is crushed, and they have to cut off the finger to be able to save the girl, to save the whole hand. One, like, huge parallel to the Taln being sacrificed to save the other 9 heralds, which was not a good decision, right? It's another leaders making really bad decisions unjustly. But even in that same flashback, Lirin says, well, son, you cannot destroy to save. And I'm like, Lirin, you just destroyed one finger to save this girl's life. You can sacrifice to save. That's what leadership is making that justly. I think that's very possible. That's some version of Kaladin's fifth ideal. leads to him taking up. We haven't talked about the death rattle, but there's the death rattle. You must take up the fallen title, the fallen spear, the crown, the tower, and Dalinar's sigil for Urithiru is the town and the crown and the tower.
Yep. Yeah, who had that? Who remembered that death rattle? Was that?
What do you mean?
Who was talking about that death rattle? I can't remember. I feel like there was somebody who mentioned it. But anyway, I don't remember where it was.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, shoot, what if it comes down to, okay, you have to kill Moash? Like, he's become such a problem that you actually have to kill this
Meanwhile, the fan base is over here. No, stop. No.
Oh, no. I mean, in reality, yes.
For Kaladin's perspective, though, that's a big deal.
Yes, I very much understand, but from the fan base point of view, you're kind of like, no, it's not a struggle anymore. You can go away.
I mean, there are still people who champion Moash.
It was really interesting watching my daughter read through the Stormlight Archive. She's 12, and seeing her being like, "Oh, and he's hanging out with Moash," and blah blah blah. I'm sitting there going, "Oh yeah, Moash." Huh. So just going, "Oh yeah, how are things going?" Yeah.
And then,
they're having a great time.
And I tried really hard not to give away that I was like, F
Mom, why are you crushing that apple in the palm of your hand? And how did you do that?
And then suddenly you just hear from her room, "Storm Moash."
No, I feel like I've forgotten to ask her about that. There's a lot of things. She read them so fast that there's a lot of things that I'm like, what was your reaction? I want to know. I want to see how you thought it through. And she read through them so fast. She did miss some things. So I've had to go through and be like, did you catch this connection? And this and this? So, anyway.
That's one of the things we talk about every now and then on Stormlight Sundays is like, try to put yourself in the mindset of the reader who hasn't thought about these books in 3 years since Rhythm of War comes out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, let me," because that's where a lot of these first chapters are like, "Hey, do you remember that Shallan has 2 spren? Hey, do you remember that Bado Mishra's been like?" It's
hey,
like,
do you remember they're called the Order of Bone?
Yes.
Yes, the Order of Bone.
Oh gosh.
No, like I'd completely forgotten about them even using that phrasing, and then it's brought up, and
it's like, what?
We see the armor over hanging up, and
but they made sure it's wood because it can't really be bone.
I did like the touch. She's like, out of respect for Verlaine, we're going to make this one out of wood, but like the fact that Brandon reminded us of that is kind of an interesting thing. It's like, is this going to matter? What's up?
Or is this just that he liked it enough that he wanted to put it
exactly?
It is, yeah. Maybe it's an RPG thing. Maybe it's a back half thing.
I don't know.
It's hard to say. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it's something for the second half that's going to be important for some reason. Remember when I called them Order of Bone? I reminded you of book 5. We're like, it's book 8 and it's 2075. How?
Man.
Don't remind me of that, please. I thinking about our kids reading it, Amy, I'm like, yeah, so like my 5-year-old will be like graduating college when the Stormlight Archive ends, you know?
How do you think Brandon feels?
Right. Ugh. But
hopefully we don't have
Mistborn 5 series, and
my poor son, when he's 9 right now, so when he finally gets big enough and maybe focused enough to do it, I'll be like, oh buddy, we've got like $30 books for you to read right now. This is the order you do it in. So
you just say, here's Mistborn.
Just read
and
this
let him
one.
read that, and then say, here's Warbreaker, and let him read that. You don't say you got to read all of these. Just
no. She's a parent. Her job is to foist her hobbies onto her children to be disappointed if they don't like it.
I don't have kids, but I feel like that's wrong.
I've watched sitcoms. I understand how this works. Yes, this is the nerdy version of son, don't you want to play football?
Oh man.
I have a nerd friend of mine, and we do joke about how our kids will grow up and they'll be like, Dad, I just want to play football and go watch sports. Like, no, go read your manga and watch an anime.
Meanwhile, and then there's me as a kid. It's like, I want to read manga and watch sports.
No, we keep trying to like be in our house, and we're like, okay, I know that Dad and I don't really care about football or sports or whatever else, but that doesn't mean that people who do like it are bad. Just like we try and push that. They're like, don't think they're dumb. Don't think they're bad. They're fine. Yeah. It's just not our particular thing.
Different things.
Yeah, it's okay.
Fantasy football and all that stuff is absolutely just role playing.
This reminds me of a sketch comedy troupe I saw in college, and they had a sketch about a family. They're all like dressed as Star Wars characters, and like the kids' names are Luke and Leia, and the son is talking to his dad. And he's like, I was at my friend's house and we watched Star Trek, and I liked it. And the dad just goes, Luke, I am your father, and in this house we watch Star Wars.
That's amazing. That's glorious.
It was wonderful. Anyway, that was the Garens. I haven't seen, man, I don't think I've even heard of them in forever. Anyway, okay, so we should probably wrap up.
Yeah.
To our listeners, we do love hearing from you, so please keep sending in questions. You could ask us about the Cosmere. You can drop us your ideas for topics you'd like us to discuss during the show. And while you're at it, we would love to hear your feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories you might have about what's going on in the Cosmere, because there's a lot of speculation to be done right now. You can send all your questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and we could read that as part of the show. We'd also love you to leave a comment on the YouTube video or a review anywhere. Just basically, we'd love to hear back from you. You can also reach us at the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. Now, we have our own personal projects outside of this podcast. So, CJ, why don't you lead us off? Tell us, where can we find your work? What have you got going on these days?
Yeah, Cosmere Quandaries on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. TikTok is the most day-to-day things that I'll do, but I'm working on some longer form YouTube videos, kind of getting into. The next series I'm going to do is the death rattles, walking through each death rattle and trying to figure out if we've seen it, where we might see it, and what it might be pointing to.
Awesome. Very cool. Amy, how about you? What have you got going on?
My Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay. My TikTok is @coincidencecosplay. And my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. And it's still very sad. Anyway, so I am working on finishing my Biker Scout from Star Wars. So the guys who chase the Ewoks and all that. And I'm getting closer with that, and I'm going to try and be posting more things. And I had the opportunity to be part of a Star Wars fan film as my Twi'lek this last weekend. And that's coming out next year. And it's Backyard Tripod Films is the people who are doing it. And I'm just a background character. So I'm not a huge part at all, but I think it's like Secrets of the Lost Temple or Secrets of something like that. Anyway, so
please tell me it's Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only person who thought of that.
No, I'm feeling bad that I don't remember exactly what it's called. But if you look up Backyard Tripod Films, I think is what it is. And just look up my social media posts on my TikTok. I've been putting up because they had the hallway of like basically the Millennium Falcon. And so I did some TikToks with that as my background, and it was really cool because I was like, I feel like I'm like in the Millennium Falcon. So it's really awesome. So anyway,
that's nice.
That's what I'm doing.
Awesome. And Jordan, how about you?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, all that under the name Splice Stream. I am currently teaching myself how to use a completely new editing program. So editing is very slow going right now as I'm having to basically learn how to walk again. Yeah, it's fun. But also, if I could just, again, put a plug, got job interviews. If you could just keep a good thought, karma, prayers, whatever, for your boy. He needs help and would appreciate it.
Awesome. And then as for myself, I'll talk about I Think We Overleveled, which is a podcast that Jordan put together. It's basically a bunch of college buddies, including myself, where we're reminiscing and complaining about the good old days of gaming and basically just talking about old stuff. I'm trying to remember, what was our most recent one? I was there.
We did the NES, SNES, Genesis era the commercials. So that was mostly nostalgia along with some horror of just some of the commercials that existed and I didn't know about. But
yeah, it was an interesting episode.
Yeah, the Eraserhead commercial for Zelda was really weird.
There are others I've enjoyed more, but it was a really interesting.
Yeah,
so
the next one. So that was a positive one. The next one's going to be more of a rant because we're going to be talking about gaming series that are gone and we miss.
I have a few of those. All right. Well, for those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become a patron just yet, we would love it if you'd let your friends know about the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, to like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. And if you want to toss us a good review wherever you listen to us, we would absolutely love that as well. So, final thoughts on what we just talked about.
I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when Kaladin and Hoyd were doing their conversation, and it was Zeth and Dalinar waiting in the other room for like an hour. And what was poor Dalinar doing when Zeth was just like meditating?
Listening to Nightblood, almost certainly. Probably, just yammer just being like, for an entire hour.
I've been talking about, over the course of it, different songs that each character has kind of as their motif when they're doing something awesome. And now Gallant's is the Robot Unicorn attack song by Erasure. I can't remember what the name of it
is. I want to be with you. That's
the one.
Song is burned into my head because of that Flash game from 2006, I think.
Way back in the day.
But no, right. The last thing I want to say is Zeth is still a basket full of crazy, and I frankly, with Kaladin, I'd rather take my chances with the Shar as far as my ability to fix things.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, in addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. For our next episode, we're going to continue our discussion of the Wind and Truth, the preview chapters, because what in the world is going on? He has left us with some fun cliffhangers, so there's more to come. So join us in chat for the live discussion on Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, CJ, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember,
there's always
another secret.